In this video, you're going to learn how to graph lines. Example number 1. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points 1, -19 and -2, -7. So first I'm going to start by rewriting my points. So I have 1, -19, and -2, -7. Now I'm going to label my points. So I have x sub 1, x sub 2. The reason why I identified them this way is because x sub 1 is the first x I see, x sub 2 is the second x I see. So this is going to be y sub 1, y sub 2. Now I'm going to write the formula for slope, which is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now I'm going to plug in my numbers into the equation. So I have y sub 2, which is -7, minus y sub 1, which is -19, all over x sub 2, which is -2, minus x sub 1, which is 1. Now remember, when I have two negatives next to each other, that means I'm multiplying. So a negative times a negative becomes a positive. So now I have 19, which is positive 19, minus 7, that's going to give me 12. All over -2, -1, so I just add those together and keep the same sign. So that's going to be -3. However, I notice that I can simplify. So 12 divided by -3 will give me a -4. So my slope is -4. I could also rewrite it as a fraction, and it could be -4 over 1. Example number 2. Find the slope of the line that passes through the points 20, 8 and 9, 16. So first I'm going to rewrite my points. So I have 20, 8 and 9, 16. I'm going to label my points. I have x sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 1, y sub 2. I'm going to write my formula for slope, which is m equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Now I'm going to plug in my points into the formula. So y sub 2 is 16 minus y sub 1 is 8 all over x sub 2, which is 9, minus x sub 1, which is 20. So 16 minus 8 will give me 8. 9 minus 20 will give me -11. So my answer for slope is m equals -8 over 11. Example number 3. Match the equations with the correct graph. Y equals 7 over 2x minus 2. So first I need to identify the slope and the y-intercept. So I know that the slope is the coefficient of x, which is 7 over 2. So m equals 7 over 2. And my y-intercept, which is b, equals -2. Now the second equation, y equals -6x plus 3. I know that my slope is a coefficient of x, which is -6. So m equals -6. I'm going to write it as a fraction, so I'm going to write it over 1. And then my y-intercept, which is b, is 3. So now I'm going to look at the first graph, and I see that the y-intercept is 3. So I notice that my second equation has a y-intercept of 3, but I want to make sure this is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and plot my point at 3, because that's the y-intercept and that's our starting point. And I notice that my slope is -6 over 1, so that means I'm going to go down 6, and then we go to the right 1. So starting at the y-intercept, go down 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, to the right 1. And it matches up because that is the correct line. So y equals negative 6x plus 3. So now let's look at our second graph. I notice that my y-intercept is at negative 2. And my first equation has a y-intercept of negative 2. We want to double check to make sure this is correct. So I'm going to make my point at negative 2 because that's our starting point. And then my slope is at 7 over 2 and it's positive. So that means I'm going to go up 7 to the right 2. So up 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the right 2. 1, 2. Make my point. It does match up. So the equation is y equals 7 over 2x minus 2. And that's how you match the equations with the correct graph. Example number 4. Match the equations with the correct graph. The first equation, y equals 5 over 3x. So first I need to identify my slope and then my y-intercept. So I know that the slope is the coefficient of x, which is 5 over 3. So m equals 5 over 3. In my y-intercept, I don't see anything there, but there is an invisible 0. So b equals 0. Now the second equation, y equals 1 over 2x minus 2. I know that my slope is the coefficient of x, so that's 1 over 2. So m equals 1 over 2, and my y-intercept, which is b, is negative 2. So now let's look at the first graph. I see that the line is crossing at the origin, which is at 0. And I notice that my first equation has a y-intercept of 0. So I'm going to make my point there, and we want to make sure this is correct. I look at my slope and I see that it's 5 over 3 and it's positive. So that means I'm going to go up 5 and then to the right 3. So let's start at the y-intercept. Go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right 3. 1, 2, 3. There's my point and it matches. So that is the correct equation. So y equals 5 over 3x. Now let's look at the second graph. I know that the line is crossing at negative 2 on the y-axis. And the second equation has a y-intercept of negative 2. So let's just make sure this is correct. So I'm going to make my point at negative 2 because that's my y-intercept. And I notice that my slope is positive 1 over 2. So that means I'm going to go up 1 to the right 2. So start at the y-intercept, go up 1 to the right 2. 1, 2. My dot goes there. It is the correct line. So the equation is y equals 1 over 2x minus 2. And that's how you match the equations with the correct graph.